Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. Welcome back today to another video. It is the player ratings. Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Everton 1 on Saturday afternoon. Before we get into this, I just want to say a massive thank you to Cal for covering the instant match reaction to the game on Saturday afternoon. As I mentioned, I was in a family barbecue, so I was unable to record and upload a match reaction. So massive thank you to Cal for covering that and obviously for managing to get a video up on the channel. I've watched Cal's reaction and I pretty much agree with everything he said in it, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll give my little short synopsis of the game in this video before we go into the player ratings, of course. But yeah, like I said, apologies for this one not being uploaded on Saturday, and of course yesterday as well. I had quite a busy day yesterday, so I was unable to upload it then as well. But a 1-1 draw for Sean Dyche in a game that Everton really could have done with winning. Obviously, we watched Leeds United lose their game yesterday to West Ham United after a brief scare with them going 1-0 up. Obviously, West Ham managed to come back and win the game by 3-1. Should have been more as well. And the hope now today is that, you know, Newcastle United can beat Leicester City at St James's Park, which, although sounds like, you know, a result that should be one that is on the cards, you just never know at this stage in the season. You know, I keep referring to that Everton game against Brighton, a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, I'm seeing so many people saying, no, you know, Newcastle have battered them, they need to win for Champions League, and Leicester have this, that, and the other, and Newcastle are great at St James's Park, and all of these are facts, don't get me wrong, all of these are very, you know, factual points. However, I keep thinking back to that game against Brighton a couple of weeks ago where Everton turned up and just completely blew Brighton out of the park with, you know, absolutely no previous evidence to suggest that they would do so. And I can't help but fear this game of football tonight. If Leicester do lose tonight or do drop points, then they are unable to catch Everton as long as Everton beat Bournemouth. So the hope now, of course, is that Leicester drop points tonight and then Everton would only need a win against Bournemouth on the weekend to secure their Premier League safety. There is positives to take from this result. The positives are, as I've just mentioned, we've picked up another point on the road away from home, and had you have said, you know, I think a lot of Evertonians a few weeks ago would have expected Everton to pick up a point in this fixture. Obviously, we all were talking about maybe going out and getting all three, and had we have gotten all three and Leicester had lost tonight, then we would have been safe. But, you know, I suppose the overall expectation was that Everton go out and get at least something, and listen, if, you know, Leicester end up losing tonight, which is a very possible outcome, then, you know, it will be a game week in which Everton have picked up a point, and the two teams that are in and around us have not picked up a point. Obviously, we know Nottingham Forest are completely out of it now, so, you know, I suppose in the grand scheme of things at this stage in the season, it's only really results that matter. Performances don't matter as much. It's all about results. I'd rather Everton, you know, pick up a point in a game that we didn't particularly play well in than, you know, lose a game of football, but we were absolutely brilliant, especially at this stage in the season, because, you know, results are so important at the moment. So if Leicester do go on and lose tonight, then it means that we'll have picked up something in a weekend where the other teams around us haven't picked up anything, which is positive going into the final game of the season. It wasn't a great performance. Let's have it right. It wasn't a great performance. I thought Everton were poor from the first minute to the last minute. I don't particularly think Sean Dyche had a massive amount of luck going into this one. Obviously, we knew that Vitaly Mykolenko was out injured, and we knew full well that we had no cover for Vitaly Mykolenko, so it was Dwight McNeil who played at left back, and that not only affected us defensively. Don't get me wrong, I thought Dwight McNeil done a good job defensively. I thought he was okay, and I thought he's been brilliant defensively recently as well, but he's obviously not a left back, so the balance of that back line then is out. Even if he did keep his position well, and even if, you know, he did put in a decent performance, he naturally isn't a left back. So it affected us defensively in terms of the shape and the balance, but it also affected us going forward, because at the moment Dwight McNeil is our best attacking player, and he of course was completely out of the game because of, the fact that, he was playing left back, he wasn't playing wing back, which would have enabled him to get forward and maybe burst down the line and put a couple of crosses in. He was playing left back, so he was completely and utterly out of the game. And that really, really affected us, and that's something that I don't think we can afford to do against Bournemouth at the weekend. Whether or not Vitaly Mykolenko is available, the hope is that he is available, and that this is sort of how desperate times have become, haven't they, at Everton Football Club? Not only because we're in a relegation battle and we still don't know whether we'll be a Premier League team next season going into the final game of this season, but, I've sat here a number of times on instant match reactions and player ratings and criticised players like Vitaly Mykolenko and just said, listen, overall, they're just not good enough. And I don't think Vitaly Mykolenko is a particularly great footballer, but what he is a left back. And what that means is that at the very, very least, when he's in that Everton team, he provides that balance because he's a natural left back. He knows his position. He knows where to be. He mightn't be very good one-on-one. He mightn't be very quick. He mightn't be very good going forward. But at least he provides that balance. And that just shows how desperate this is, that we missed him so much. And he's not even been particularly great recently. But we also, as I said, we missed him a lot because it stopped Dwight McNeil from being able to get forward. And at the moment, Dwight McNeil is our best attacking player. It's as simple as that, whether you like it or not. We also lost Nathan Patterson throughout the game. Again, if the back line was unbalanced with Vitaly Mykolenko being out and Dwight McNeil having to play there, it was completely unbalanced when Nathan Patterson went off with an injury, and an injury that could very well keep him out for the remainder of the season. And obviously we saw Michael Keane come on and play right back, which was utterly terrifying. And then in the second half we went to sort of a 5 at the back off the ball, and James Garner was at right back and Michael Keane went up front. But again, if Nathan Patterson isn't fit and available for Sunday, who comes in? We've got no Seamus Coleman. Nathan Patterson could be out injured. You're then looking at Mason Holgate, maybe, who has been absolutely terrible in recent weeks, and when he's had to have been called upon. Ben Godfrey still isn't fit and available, so whether or not he'll be there is another question. Again, it is the possibility of going into Sunday, a game that we absolutely must win, regardless of the result tonight. We absolutely must win with no fit fullbacks and having to play other players in those positions, which will then have a knock-on effect on other areas of the pitch. I'm terrified for Sean Dyche's press conference, because if Sean Dyche comes out and says Nathan Patterson isn't going to make it, then who plays at right back? Can you trust Mason Holgate? No. Could you trust Michael Keane at right back? Absolutely not. It just, the whole balance of the back line will be completely and utterly up in the air, and I fear the manager would have to go with a 5 at the back and play wing backs to at least maybe accommodate Dwight McNeil playing at left wing back, and maybe a Wolby right wing back, or James Garner or somebody like that, so at least they can get forward a little bit more and they've still got that defensive cover. And then of course Dominic Calvert-Lewin going off. Look, in the isolation of this game, a bad performance. We didn't really show much. We scored a 99th minute equaliser, to earn us a point which could potentially keep us in the Premier League. Great. At this stage in the season, as I've just said, performances don't really matter. It's all about those results, and we dug deep. We worked hard. Given we had injuries in the game and we had players playing all over the place out of position, we still managed to dig deep and get a point. Great. But we are going into a game we must win now, potentially without any fit fullbacks and without our striker. And we all know, and I think it's been proven enough in the last couple of weeks, that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is by far and wide Everton's most effective player, outfield at the very least. Without Dominic Calvert-Lewin in this team, we are simply much worse than what we are when he's in there. If you were to say to me now, Cam, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is fit, guaranteed to start against Bournemouth, he'll play the entire 90, I am 89, 90% confident that we would win that game. Without him there, I'm probably less than 50% confident we win that game. Because it's not just his ability in front of goal as a striker, it's how much he commands the space, how good he is with the ball at his feet, how much he holds the ball up, wins fouls, turns with it, he attracts defenders to him, which obviously leaves space in behind for other players. The thought of going into this game without him in there and having to rely on a Neil Maupay who's had an awful season, or a Damari Gray who's had an awful season, is worrying. It really, really is worrying. So there is positives to take from it, and if Leicester lose tonight, then you have to look at it positively and think, you know what, we picked up something there when other teams haven't. Let's move on to next week. But the lineup against Bournemouth could be absolutely terrifying. And, you know, again, it's not guaranteed that we'll turn up next week and win. It's as simple as that. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, yeah, but we'll beat Bournemouth at home on the last day. Where is this coming from? We've lost 10 home games all season, and we could be going into that game without any fifth fullback, so the balance will be off defensively, and without our striker. You know, it's a little bit worrying, but as I said, I think we do have to try and keep the faith. We do have to try and stay positive. If Leicester lose tonight, then it's completely in Everton's hands, and Everton really should be able to go out and beat Bournemouth. But yeah, not a great performance overall, not a great performance. Let's have a little look at the player ratings, then we'll fly through these because I'm aware that I haven't chatted on for long enough. Jordan Pickford in goal. I'm going to give Jordan a 7.5. Don't think he was massively involved in the game. You know, he could not have done much more for the goal. Obviously, Adama Traore has the initial chance, which is saved well. Some people would argue that Jordan saves it back into the path of the Wolves players, but I think that would be slightly harsh on Jordan. He made a genuine season-defining save towards the end of the game. I think it was the 91st, 92nd minute, something like that. Matheus Nunes has gone one-on-one. Jordan stood up and made a really, really good save. And I remember hearing the commentator say that save could keep Everton in the Premier League. And I remember thinking, we're 1-0 down, we're likely going to lose this game. And if other results go against us, then we might be down either way. But, you know, ultimately we went on. We got the equaliser in the last second, and Leeds lost yesterday. So, realistically, if Everton stay up by a point, then that save will be the save that keeps Everton in the Premier League, which is, you know, which just shows the importance of it. And as I said, I thought Jordan overall, yes, on Saturday was good. Again, not an awful lot to do, not a massive amount. Made the saves that you would expect him to save, but that one towards the end was massive, and, you know, could again be season defining. Dwight McNeil at left back. Actually, I'm going to give Jordan Pickford an 8 because that was a big moment. Dwight McNeil at left back, I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was solid. You know, again, I think if you're criticising Dwight McNeil for this performance because he didn't create much, or he didn't get forward, or he wasn't, you know, particularly involved at the top end of the pitch, then you're being a little bit harsh, in my opinion. Listen, he was playing left back for the large parts of the game, and when he wasn't playing left back, he was playing in a left wing back position of some form. And I thought he'd done well. Thought defensively he was solid. Thought he done well with his one-on-ones. He defended well with his one-on-ones. Let a couple of balls come into the box, but that was always going to happen because obviously he's not a natural defender. But, you know, I thought generally one-on-ones he done well with. Other defensive bits he done well with. Passing was okay. Movement off the ball was okay. Kept his positioning good as well. It wasn't many times when the ball was put over to that left-hand side and, you know, you were thinking, where's Dwight McNeil? Where's he wanted to? I think the biggest compliment I could give Dwight McNeil is when Dice brought Michael Keane on at right back. Lopetegui changed the Adama Traore from their right-hand side to their left-hand side, so he'd obviously realised that he wasn't getting much look out of Dwight McNeil, and he moved him over to the left-hand side to deal with Michael Keane, who we all know. Michael Keane playing right back, it's a good job I had a bevy. It's a good job I was in a family barbecue with a bevy, because just the image of seeing Michael Keane line up at right back in a back four just made me want to burst into tears. But yeah, I thought Dwight McNeil done well. I thought he was solid, and given, you know, he obviously his general play and his overall play and what he usually does was out of his control. I thought he worked hard. James Tarkowski then, I'm going to give him a 6.5. I thought he was okay. Could he have done better for the goal? Maybe. I think every one of them leaves Hwang Hee-chan, don't they, to sort of just wander into the box and you know, find the space and get on the end of the rebounded shot. But I thought he was okay. Tarkowski, thought, you know, most of the things he had to deal with, he dealt with well. I don't think Wolves were particularly threatening. They had a couple of shots, a couple of chances, a couple of moments on the break that, you know, Everton dealt with in a heart attack manner, I will say. But nevertheless, still dealt with. And yeah, again, I thought he was particularly solid. It was a difficult afternoon, a difficult game, difficult circumstances given all of the injuries, and it's difficult for centre half when you've got two fullbacks playing at fullback, it's difficult to try and manage that, and I thought Tarky was okay. Yerry Mina, Yerry's getting a 9. I think he was outstanding. I think he was outstanding defensively. I think he was colossal. I think everything that come near him, he dealt with, he got out. I think every headed opportunity he had, he dealt with. I think everything on the floor he dealt with. Everything that, needed cleared and he dealt with. I thought, he was absolutely fantastic. And ultimately, he scored the goal, which very well could keep Everton in the Premier League. And the worrying thing is about that goal is that puts Yerry Mina's tally above Neil Maupay's for the season. And Yerry Mina's played in about 7 games, which is just utterly baffling. Yeah, listen, he may no longer be an Everton player come the end of the season, but when we've needed them to step up, he stepped up. And that goal could be absolutely humongous. And as I said, not only the goal, I thought defensively he was really good as well. Nathan Patterson then, I'm going to give him a 6. I thought he was okay for his time on the pitch. Obviously worrying in terms of his injury. We'll wait and see what that one is is about, and whether that one has a long-term effect on his season. If I was a betting man, I would bet that he won't be available for Sunday's game, but we'll wait and see for Sean Dyche's press conference. Maybe it's just a little bit of a knock that he'll be able to get over. But yeah, generally I thought he was all right. Made a couple of runs forward and attempts to cross the ball into, looked progressive, looked attacking. But, again, obviously come off the pitch with an injury, which is disappointing because Nathan is, and again, I don't want this to sound unfair because it's obviously not his fault that he's picking up injuries, but he's falling into a dangerous habit of constantly being, injury prone and not really being able to be relied on, and that may be something that affects his Everton career if, the manager or a future manager looks and goes, well, yeah, he's a good young player, but, he's injured for most of the season. So, yeah, unfortunate for Nathan. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery, but I thought he was all right while he was on. Into the midfield then, Garner Gay. Going to give him a 6 as well. Don't think he was massively involved. I can remember a couple of moments where he nicked the ball back and he moved the ball forward from the edge of the box, and he just sort of nullified that danger as he often does. But I think the story of Garner's season this season has been very much of that, not massively involved in games, and he's had a couple of really good performances and he's had a couple of really influential performances, but more often than not he's sort of just there. And yes, he will nick the ball back a couple of times, and maybe if he wasn't there we'd realise his importance more, but I just don't think he was particularly involved. Don't think he was particularly effective. I just thought he was all right. Didn't do anything wrong. He didn't lose the ball. When he had the ball, he done it well. He passed it well, but again, just we needed a bit more. Not necessarily from him, but from everybody. But yeah, he was all right. James Garner, I'm gonna give him a 7 as well, purely because he had a period where he had to play, sort of out of position, and I think he managed that particularly well as well. Defensively, he was relatively good when he had to be. Going forward, he looked promising. He looked a threat. Obviously, nothing come of it, and nothing, nothing was ultimately formed from it. But he looked at least like he was going to cause a threat, like he was going to cause a problem for the Wolves defence. And yeah, as I said, much like Dwight McNeil, had a period in the game where he was playing out of position and he just had to do what he could in that area, and I thought he'd done well there. Amadou Onana, going to give him a 3. I thought he was poor. I thought he was really poor. Just I think he was, in fact, you know what, I'll give him a 4 because I don't think Garner was much better. Give Garner a 5 and I'm going to give Onana a 4. I just don't think he was particularly effective. I think he should have fouled Traore, if I'm being honest with you, before their goal. He literally has an opportunity to take him out. It wouldn't have been a red card. There was players in front of him. And, on the break, sometimes you have to take the professional foul. And listen, Amadou's a young lad, a very young lad. I think people forget how young he is and how inexperienced he is, not only in the Premier League, but even before that. He played, 60 games for Lille, 60 professional games, and before that he was an academy player. So very inexperienced, very young, and obviously his first season in the league. And maybe that will come with time, and maybe that will come in the future where he sort of figures out that, he'll have been thinking in his head, I don't want to give a foul away here because I don't want to let my team down. But you know, I suppose as the more experience they get, you like your Garners, your Gareth Barry's, think back to, they've just taken him out there and took the yellow card and then sort of nullified that threat. And, you know, who knows, had he have done that, maybe we wouldn't have conceded and maybe we'd have gone on to win the game. That's obviously all if buts, but yeah, I think he should have took that foul. And then the rest of the game, I just don't think he was particularly effective. I don't know whether he just isn't naturally fast or whether he wasn't particularly making the runs, or, you know, those bursting runs to try and get in the areas he needed to. His passing was sloppy at times. Movement wasn't particularly effective. Just didn't think he had a good game. The Corey next to him, I'm going to give him a 4 as well. Similarly, I don't think he was effective enough. Dukes is a mad one, isn't he? You know, if you'd have watched Abdoulaye Doucouré against Brighton, you would have sworn that as a footballer, he's really, really talented. His second goal was a brilliant finish. His passing was brilliant for the entirety of the game. His movement was brilliant. But then you watch him on other occasions, like Saturday, for example, and he doesn't even look like he looks like he'd be poor on a Wednesday afternoon with, you know, a load of lads who work 9 to 5s at a 5-a-side league. Just his touch, his overall control of the ball, poor again. And I feel like it's either way with Abdoulaye Doucouré. He's either brilliant or he's really poor. And on Saturday he was really poor, and hopefully next Sunday he's really good. But yeah, just don't think he had a good game whatsoever. I don't think he was particularly effective. And then Alex Iwobi, going to give him a 5.5. I think he was slightly more effective, slightly more involved, slightly more attacking and trying to make something happen and trying to make something work, but ultimately wasn't involved. And look, I mean, if you look at that front four, Onana, Doucouré, Iwobi and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, on the assumption that Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't play at the weekend, that might be Gray instead. There's not a lot in that. Onana, Doucouré, Iwobi and Gray, there's not a lot in that. So, yeah, that's where my worry comes from ahead of next week. But, yeah. And then Dom, I can only really give Dom a 5, can't I? You know, come off injured, didn't he? And as I said, the hope is that, touch wood, that it's nothing serious. And the prayer from us all is that he somehow is fit on Sunday. But I'm not holding my breath for that. Yeah. Couple of good chances, to be honest, in the first half that he should have done better with. Couple of good headers that you would put, you know, your money on Dominic Calvert-Lewin at least getting on target. If he gets them on target and the keeper makes saves, then that is what it is. But to not get them on target for me is poor. Overall play, obviously, we look better with him in the team. His strength, his ability to win fouls, all of that is all still there. But ultimately, he had a couple of chances he should have done better with, and he ended up going off injured. So, yeah. Aldgate then come on as a sub. I give him a 5. I can't particularly remember him doing much, but he didn't particularly make many mistakes either. Michael Keane, I'm going to give Michael Keane a 6, actually. I slagged him off before. I gave him a 6.5. I slagged him off before about the playing right back, and he didn't do anything wrong at right back, but it's just terrifying, the thought of him at right back, isn't it? He got the assist for Yerry Mina's goal. Ultimately, he was playing up front for the last 20 minutes, which again was just baffling. But listen, he was playing up front, he was asked to do a job, and he did it successfully. He got himself in an area, he didn't make a rash decision when the ball fell to his feet, he put it in and he got it to Yerry Mina, and Yerry Mina scored, so he deserves credit for that. Damari Gray, 4. I get it's a difficult situation, I get it's tough, I get it's not easy to come into that game and have an impact, but he come on up front and he offered nothing. He offered nothing. To be honest, he put a good cross in the box that maybe should have been gambled on by somebody, but he was the striker, so him putting the ball in the box, there was never going to be anybody there because he was the one that was meant to be on the end of it, and he had one shot that was saved. But we need more. If Damari Gray is going to start up front on Sunday, we need more. And then Neil Maupay, yeah, 3. He just walks. He just comes on and walks around a bit, doesn't he? He doesn't really offer much else. But there you go. They're the player ratings. We'll be back a little bit later on with the game review, so don't forget to look out for that one. Once again, massive thanks to Cal for doing the instant match reaction. I really appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new as well. Big thank you all for watching, and we'll see you later. Up the toffees.